everyone. Welcome to We Need the Moon. My name's Tracy and I'm here with Dee.
Hi.
Hi, Dee. I'm so excited today. Dee has an episode for us, which is very close to our hearts, something Dee has been studying as well. Today, we are going to be talking about shadow work and archetypes.
I'm literally jumping around in my chair. I'm so excited to go through this with you.
We've talked about shadow work in some of our meditations, particularly around when the moon's in the Scorpio energy, but actually it's something that I don't know much about.
Yeah, shadow work is something that I'm just so intrigued by. Go into more details about what it actually is. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it and heard it mentioned, heard it in passing. I've posted lots of memes on our Facebook group and so forth about shadow work. So I want to tell you a little bit more about what it is actually. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about archetypes, personality archetypes, which is another thing that's closely linked to shadow work that I absolutely love. Are you ready, Tracy?
I am. This is going to be a journey of a bit of self-discovery, it feels.
Well, you know, I'm not going to make you do too much reflecting in this, so don't worry. It should be a painless episode, but just super intrigued by it. What I like about shadow work is, in all honesty, all of this good vibes only, positive vibes only sort of mentality that happens in the spiritual world a lot. It doesn't sit well with me. Maybe it's because I have a history of anxiety and depression, but I don't have good vibes only all of the time. I don't know about you.
And you're human, Dee, though. Right. We're here for the human experience, not the angelic spiritual experience. We're human, good and bad.
Listen, I'm totally all for trying to stay positive, looking at the positive, gratitude, all that. I am 100% for that. But what I don't like is when people feel like they can't talk about the negative emotions they're feeling or the things they're struggling with because they feel like they have to be positive all the time and, you know, good vibes.
Do you remember the little chat we had, was it last week, where someone had really upset me? And we said, send them love, because sending people love is a common phrase used in when you've had conflict. Just send them love. Don't send hate, send love. It's like, I can't right now. The best I can offer you is just sending nothing.
Yeah.
Sending indifference. Was it you said, Dee?
Yeah, sending indifference, which is possibly worse than sending hate. But yeah, it's just not possible. It's not believable. It's not human for us to be happy, happy, joy, joy all the time, right?
No.
And it can actually, the idea about shadow work is that it can actually be really damaging to suppress the difficult emotions and feelings and thoughts that you have. You need to address them because otherwise you go into denial and bad things can start happening. So shadow work is all about looking at the darker side. And, you know, we talk quite a lot about how different characteristics can have a light side and a shadow side. So, for example, ambition is a good one to use because ambition in its lightest form is the thing that gives you motivation to achieve and do amazingly well in the workplace and in your passions in life. The shadow side of ambition is where you will literally shit on people and step on people to get where you want in the world. Same with love. You have obviously the very positive side of love where you're nurturing and caring and in a happy relationship. And the shadow side is, you know, heartbreak or resentment or jealousy. There's a lot of characteristics and traits, human traits, that can lean towards the light side or the shadow side. And it's very important to be aware of that. So you can try to make sure all of your characteristics work towards the lighter side rather than the shadow side. So shadow work is a healing modality. So it's a self-reflection tool and a way to help improve your well-being. It's used by therapists, it's used by spiritual healers, it's used by individuals doing work on themselves. And the shadow side is the side that you can't see or that you hide either from yourself or from other people. So it's the characteristics, the thoughts, the emotions that you're not proud of. So you either hide them from other people or you hide them so well you're actually in denial about them yourself. You know, when you meet someone who's like, for example, I'm not an aggressive person. That was me trying to be aggressive.
That was very raw, Indy.
No, that you just have some people who are just so in denial about what they're like. Repressing your dark side can leave you feeling confused and disconnected because you're denying such a large chunk of your personality. And it can lead to extreme behaviors. This is where we learn about how it can spring forth if you don't address it in a healthy way. For example, these are behaviors that people use in order to repress their shadow side. Extreme sports, drugs, addiction, sex, gambling, overeating, violence. You know, I always say I'm eating my feelings, and that's when I'm feeling down or I'm feeling upset or angry or whatever. And rather than addressing it in a healthy way and reflecting on it, I just eat chocolate, which is obviously not
distraction, do you think?
Yeah,
making yourself happy.
You know, it's quite interesting because a lot of these characteristics are also linked to empaths. Behaviors that empaths use to dull the emotions that they are feeling from everyone around them. So it's quite common for empaths to have anxiety and to resort to addiction for that reason. So it's when you want to dull feelings, thoughts, emotions that you don't want to have to deal with, and can lead to far more destructive behavior even, such as self-harm, other destructive behavior, crime, unfulfilled relationships. As you can see, there's quite a grim trajectory if you ignore the shadow side of yourself.
Sounds like you could turn into a bit of a sociopath.
Yeah, because you become disconnected, literally. You get so used to lying to yourself and to everyone around you about what you're like, what you're going through, etc. The problem is that it's viewed in society as extremely negative. The emotions such as anger and jealousy are viewed as negative, but so is talking about them. Right? They're viewed as shameful, and we are less keen to talk about them with our friends, our family, our loved ones, people around us, and why we also start hiding how we feel about it to ourselves even. Imagine those posts you see on Facebook of, like, you know, meditation techniques or positive vibes only or what the moon is doing or whatever, and how it might be quite difficult to respond to those messages and say, actually, I feel like shit because I'm really angry at my partner for doing this thing. You know, it feels like not the place to talk about those kinds of things. This is why we always try to have a lot of posts on our social media where people are given the space to talk about things like that, especially in our moon circle, because we do need to talk about these things. Just because we feel shame or we feel like they're not, you know, positive emotions, or a good person wouldn't feel like this, that's bullshit. And everyone has these thoughts, and sometimes just talking about them, getting other people's perspectives or using them as sounding boards is part of the way that we overcome them and feel better. You know, Tracy and I, we start every recording, don't we, with a little rant where we do have to get a lot off our chest. And because we're good friends and we know each other very well, we don't view it as a reflection of the other person. It's just like, I need to just get it all out, right? And then I'll be better. So during a time where everyone's trying to stay focused and everyone's trying to stay positive, it can kind of feel like if you're not feeling positive, you might feel a little bit isolated or ostracized from that spiritual community. So undertaking shadow work, you might be thinking, well, yeah, we should definitely be doing this if, you know, the result of ignoring our shadow side is that we do extreme sports or gamble. But on a serious note, it can make you feel more whole and more self-aware, and therefore have better relationships. If you understand yourself better, then you can help other people understand you better, right? If I know, you know, I might try to tell myself, I'm not a jealous person at all. This is actually a true story, right? And I don't think I'm particularly jealous, but I like to tell myself I'm not a jealous person at all. But the truth of the matter is that once some bitch wanted to buy my boyfriend Eminem tickets, she was going to spend £150 each to buy tickets for Eminem at Twickenham.
Making me laugh. Really?
Someone I'd never met before. So of course I did some Facebook stalking because I was like, we've been going out 2 years and I've hardly heard you mention this girl. And she's offering to buy you really expensive tickets. And she knows you have...
What was her motive? Was she trying to steal, Dee?
Go on her fucking Facebook and each one of her profile pictures is a picture of her with Paul.
What? Why have I not heard this story?
Right? So I was like, I'm sorry, but there's no way that this bitch is taking you to this concert because quite clearly she's trying to take you on a date.
she's already created a little mini social media life with him. Now she wants to make a reality as well.
So maybe this isn't jealousy. Maybe this is just anger because I wasn't worried about Paul in this scenario at all. I didn't think, oh, he's going to leave me for her because I know I'm confident in how he feels about me. But I was just like, I'm sorry, but if some guy came along and said, I'm going to take you to a really expensive meal and I'm going to pay for all of it and your boyfriend's not invited, would you be cool with that? And he was like, no, but you know.
You don't want to be sat at home while he's at a concert that he should be with you. A, you don't want to go through that scenario. It's not fair. But B, even if you know Paul's not going to do anything, you don't know her motives. And why should you ride out the end of that story just to try and be the calm zen person, I'm okay, when you know the ending's not going to be well? Maybe it is better to voice it.
And I should say that like Paul is a massive Eminem fan. So I was like, this girl clearly likes him. They've known each other since school or something. And she's trying to manipulate a scenario where he will be.
And she knew he had a girlfriend, right? Fiance now.
Yeah.
She knows.
I acknowledged that my shadow side was feeling like this. I didn't try to repress it. Old D would have been like, oh, no, it's fine. I trust my boyfriend. No. I was like, no, I'm not happy with the situation. I'm not happy to deal with it. I'm not going to have a night in hell sitting at home fucking feeling sorry for myself and feeling angry and then causing more arguments between me and Paul because of this situation that's happened. So I bought the Eminem tickets for Paul's birthday for me and him to go along. And I told him, your little friend can pop along and say hi to us when we're there together if you want. Of course, Madam didn't even buy tickets for herself and she didn't go because obviously when she couldn't go alone with Paul, she didn't care.
You could have had the tantrum and you could have like said, oi, what you doing? And had it out with her, but you didn't. You just sort of batted that ball right back in her face.
Well, the way I view it, and maybe I'm being naive, but I don't see it as being manipulative or playing the game. I didn't want to hurt her or upset her. What I was thinking was, I don't want it to play out the way that she's manipulating it into. The way I want it to play out is that he doesn't go on this, like, basically a date, an expensive date with some other woman. But I also don't want him to say no because I know he's a really big fan. And like basically Eminem was playing at Twickenham. We live in Twickenham. So it would have been like a massive, amazing gig.
So you would have been the bad guy as well, right? You would have been the bad guy.
And his birthday was coming up. So I was like, how would I like this to play out? Actually, it would be quite nice for Paul and I to go. I basically thought, how do I want this to play out? Like, let me be honest with my feelings. If he goes, I'm going to be pissed off. I'm going to want to tell him, oh, no, it's fine. You go. She's a friend, blah, blah, blah. And let me get this straight. If she said, do you want to go to the gig with me? That would have been different. She was offering to pay for him. And like I said, the tickets started at £150. So that's weird, right?
That's the motive there. There's got to be something in it for her.
And like I said, when I saw her Facebook, I was like, she's clearly in love with my boyfriend.
That's her shadow side, though. You mentioned love can be obsessive, stalkery, almost trying to make a situation happen rather than it just evolving. You're actually forcing yourself on someone else's boyfriend. Like, she clearly has that shadow side that she's not acknowledging.
You know, you can call it manipulative. I don't like to. I'd like to think that I
don't like that word.
My magic to be self-aware, to really think about how I would feel, to admit to myself, like, no, this will make me angry. This will make me jealous. This will piss me off. And I will be resentful if I ignore this. And I will make, therefore, Paul's life hell for the foreseeable future if it goes ahead. And similarly, if I tell him, no, you can't go with her, that goes against my nature too. And then I will feel really guilty and shit. And Paul will also feel sad that he's missed out on the concert. So how can I get the outcome that everyone's happy with, but mostly me, because I'm responsible for my own happiness as everyone else is responsible for their own happiness. You know, so it's important to look at that, to not deny that something's hurting you or upsetting you. But it is important to remember that looking at the shadow side of your emotions, of your thoughts, of your feelings, of your life is obviously difficult. It's much easier in the short term to just ignore your negative emotions. Be like, oh, no, that's fine. No, that doesn't bother me. No, I don't want to cause confrontation, or I don't want to look at that side of me, or I don't want to look at that trauma I went through because it's too difficult. So shadow work is incredibly emotional and can be a huge upheaval. So I will be giving you some tips on how to deal with that. And to be honest, not everyone should be doing shadow work at that particular. You have to be in the right place to do shadow work.
What place is that, dear? A happy place?
No.
A bad place?
A stable place, let's say. A bit of a stable place with the right protection around you. So I'll talk about that in a bit. So Carl Jung, have you heard of him? Psychiatrist, psychoanalyst, who was around about the time of Freud. He was practicing psychiatry right at the beginning of the practice when people still weren't sure about it. Remember, they used to call them alienists, people that were psychiatrists.
Wow.
It was thought of very mystical and magical and mysterious and kind of a bit woo-woo and a bit taboo to look into people's minds, you know?
Mm.
Jung thought a lot about the unconscious mind and the conscious mind, and that everything the person is not aware of or that they don't want to admit to is in the unconscious mind. And that's where shadow work lives. This is a quote from Jung. Everyone carries shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. So unless you bring your shadow side to light, it gets darker and denser.
Oh, I don't like the sound of that, Dee. So how do we begin?
What he thought was that your aim as a human is to become self-aware to the point of achieving individuation. That's when we understand ourselves fully and we become a fully grown, developed adult human. And he thought everyone has a shadow self, but if you deny it, then you view yourself as your idealized self. So
I was going to say, fully evolved and developed doesn't mean perfect, though, right?
No, not at all. Not at all. Just you're fully self-aware. Exactly. So if you deny your shadow self, then you have this idealized view of yourself, right? Oh, I'm not a jealous person, or I'm not an angry person, or I'm not a stubborn person, right? The problem is that if we have this idealized self view, like I don't get jealous, I don't get angry, it leads to being judgmental. Oh, people that get jealous are really, really silly. So if you start viewing yourself as perfect, you start judging other people's flaws harsher. Whereas if you realize, like, no, I have my faults. I know I can be judgmental. I know I can be bitchy. I know I can be angry. I know I can be short-tempered. I know I can get jealous. Then when you see these flaws in other people, you're a lot more understanding because you don't expect them to be perfect either. If you're unable to admit your own flaws, it leads to a lack of compassion and empathy. So we have our persona that we show the world, and this is the persona that we show to others in order to be accepted. But the shadow side can pop up quite often during times of stress. You know, when you feel, you know, that you're more short-tempered when you're stressed, or you're more angry.
Aggy.
Yeah.
I call it aggy. I'm agitated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe you're less understanding in a relationship when you're stressed. So if you've got any kind of job loss, illness, you're going through divorce, or just a difficult time at work, or you're not sleeping properly, anything that causes you stress can lead to your shadow side revealing itself more. Do you feel like you have an understanding of what your shadow side is?
I do. Where do you start if you feel like you're stable enough to do this and you want to go on that journey of being more self-aware and discover yourself a little bit more? How would you start finding it without being self-critical or too judgy of yourself? Because there's a balance, isn't there? Self-awareness is great, but it can also make you feel unrelaxed and judgy of everything you do.
Exactly. And, you know, we're still really big advocates of self-care and self-compassion. So how do you look at your shadow side while still being self-compassionate, right?
Yeah.
So the first step to doing any kind of shadow work is to do centering and grounding exercises. Try to introduce that into your daily routine. It can be like, you know, once you get good at your grounding and your centering, it can be 5-minute exercise every day, but just you have to get really, really good at being centered and being grounded. because you need to find a place of inner balance. You remember I said that not everyone is right for shadow work at any time? You shouldn't do shadow work if you're currently feeling broken. You have to build yourself up first, and the grounding and the centering can help with that. You might have to do some confidence work. You might have to get yourself out of a situation that's breaking you. And you might want to seek professional help with your shadow work. A lot of therapy is around shadow work, looking at the side that we don't want to, but with our hand held by a professional. Have a little think about the way you want to do it. You can do a lot of shadow work yourself if you want to get started with it. If you feel like you've got the balance, if you feel like you've got a strong enough base and stable enough mentality at the moment to look at the darker side. And remember never to push yourself. So if you're really struggling, if you feel that it's really breaking you further doing the shadow work, then maybe seek a professional to help you through it or take a little break from it. But the main step, grounding and centering, and lots of self-care, lots of self-compassion. It's not a case of beating yourself up over the things you're addressing in your shadow side. It's about acknowledging them and working with them. That was one of the things that I really loved about therapy, actually, was that I felt like she helped me identify the emotions I was feeling. And that is a big part of shadow work. I would tell her a scenario or situation that happened, and I would say, I just felt like, you know? And she would be like, do you think that it's maybe, do you feel shame about that? Or is it anger towards the other person? And it was really, really good to sort of take that time whenever there was an incident to reflect on what was I actually feeling? Because how are you going to deal with it if you're not even identifying it, right? It feels almost like a diagnosis of my emotions, right? So one of the good ways to start shadow work is through some journaling or some reflecting or meditating on some thoughts. So I've got a couple of prompts here. Some prompts that you might want to journal around or to just sit with and think about and answer honestly. So be really truthful about these. I'm going to read some of them out, okay? What irrational fears do I have? What blocks do I have? In what ways am I inauthentic? So, such a good one, isn't it?
My eyes lit up on that one.
Why is that?
Because I know from my shadow side that I have a lot of conflict, and it's because I come across as super angelic and nice and can do anything for you and like really sweet and give. And we'll talk about archetypes in a little bit later on. Very unbalanced in my archetype. But my goodness, if you hurt me or score me, this inner monster comes out. And I don't know whether it's in sincerity, but it switches. So it's almost like my niceness is kind of fake because there's two massive sides to me. And then this manipulative side comes out, which can actually, I don't waste my time because I'm quite little and no one would take me seriously shouting at them. I just get them where it hurts and I don't waste time.
Sorry, I couldn't laugh.
It's quite insincere, isn't it? It's not nice.
It's not insincere. So that triggered you because you were viewing this as in the theme of inauthentic. But of course you have some days where you feel happy and giving and so forth, and other days where you're feeling hurt and you're going to respond differently. That's not inauthentic, but I guess
people look at it, Dee, as much to say, whoa, you have this real horrible side to you. Does that mean the nice side to you is all fake? If you're capable of this behavior, how can someone be so dark?
So you're thinking that you might be viewed as inauthentic when your stinger comes out. Yeah.
Possibly. And it makes me question if I am. That's a very deep shadow side that I need to maybe one day look into. Am I actually this nice and sweet and I'll do anything for you? Do I have motives? Is it sincere? Is it because I want people to like me, or is it just how I am?
Wow, you're taking to shadow work really well. I wasn't going to get this deep, but yeah, those are exactly the kind of questions.
Yeah.
Start addressing. And you can see when you look at those types of questions and the things that come up that you start going on like little rabbit holes, don't you? And get deeper and deeper and deeper. And this is why you have to be in a really good place to start it. So if you have any other issues that are more pressing and so forth, like for example, I wouldn't have started shadow work at the beginning of my divorce process because I was too busy dealing with self-confidence issues, with the logistics of an actual divorce, et cetera, et cetera. Now, a couple of years on, I'm really enjoying it because I feel like I'm dealing with a lot of the trauma from the divorce and other things that have happened, and really addressing the root of a lot of my issues.
Because the pot was already full, wasn't it, Dee? It was already full of stuff to deal with. You didn't need to add more. Exactly. It's all about when you're ready.
So I'm going to give you some more prompts, right? Do you hold grudges? What have you not let go of? We all have that. You know how I've been buying so much kyanite, black kyanite at the moment. It's not because I'm trying to cut cords with anyone in particular. I feel like I'm trying to cut cords with lots of people and lots of emotions from my past that I just need to like move on from.
Dee's been sending me pictures of crystals and a new bracelet, and it's all about the tourmaline and the kyanite, to the point I said to her this week, are you okay? What's up? What's going on?
People that I haven't seen for 10 years that have hurt me in the past. And when I think of them, I still feel that hurt very real, you know? And
why are you thinking of them? Is something triggering it though? Is there a memory? Is there a reminder? Did someone else do the same thing? Where are these triggers coming from?
Well, one person in particular, my sister sees her occasionally in the street and always tells me about, you know, and it's like, I've told my sister, don't tell me when you see her anymore, because, you know, it just
brings it back.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, why does even the mention of this one lady upset me still so much when the situation was resolved ages ago in a way that suited me as best as it could have? Have you ever hurt someone intentionally or unintentionally? This is one that we don't like to think about very often, right? Because we don't like to, most of us don't want to hurt people. And it can be really hard to think about the impact that we are having on other people with our actions, whether intentionally or unintentionally.
Have you ever hurt anyone intentionally or unintentionally?
Well, I mean, most of us have. I can't imagine a situation where you have a human who has not hurt someone else at some point. We've all had breakups. We've all had arguments with loved ones. It's super common, I think, when someone hurts you, that you at the very least in your mind run through the things you would like to do in return, the things you would like to say, the things you'd like to do. I am guilty of, well, I won't say guilty because I don't know if it's good or bad, but I am very conscious about not saying hurtful things in an argument. I try really hard because I had a partner in the past who did it a lot, and it just hurt me so much that I just made a resolution never to do it to someone else, to say things just out of spite that weren't constructive in the argument, in the discussion, but just out of spite. But I fucking think them. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And if I didn't at least think them and acknowledge that I was thinking them, I would probably go a bit mad. When I have those vengeful thoughts, I try to think, why am I thinking these really bitchy thoughts, you know? And I try to address, oh, it's because I'm actually really hurt, or I'm really, really angry, or I'm really jealous. And then I try to address that issue. Do I need to tell the person who's pissed me off that I'm pissed off? Do I need to do something about this? Do I need to walk away from this relationship? All right, so I'm going to go back to the list of prompts. What rules do you intentionally break? I love them. I love some of these. I'm going to go and do some of these after we finish. Do you have any kinks or fetishes that stem from your past? So the most obvious one is daddy issues, people with daddy issues going for older men. Are they hindering your healing? How often do you lie to yourself?
Interesting. Dee's looking at me. I know you can't see this, everyone, but Dee's like looking at me for like little twitches or changes in my expression to see what gets me.
Well, because I'm sure everyone listening will have the same thing where some of them trigger something, some response, right? You're like, ooh, actually, that might be me. What emotions do you avoid?
Wow.
So again, I try to avoid anger because I don't like feeling angry. I don't like thinking negatively of someone when they've angered me. I don't like confrontation, and I don't like being vulnerable around other people by telling them that I'm angry.
Yeah. They're all understandable though, dear. I think that's a lot for everyone, isn't it?
It's understandable. Yeah, it took a really long time to understand that about myself because, for a long time I'd be like, oh, I just don't get angry. It's fine. And as a result, I just spent a lot of time hurt. I spent a lot of time not communicating how I'm feeling to the people around me and then getting upset that they didn't understand how I was feeling. This is why hiding your shadow side can really affect all of your relationships.
There's something I discovered very recently I think I'm already doing shadow work D without realizing I'm doing it.
You do a lot of self-reflection.
I do a lot of self-reflection after arguments, especially.
Yeah. So as you can see, shadow work is very powerful, very emotional, and very much an upheaval. But when you start, it's just, I don't know, it's incredibly cathartic. I'm going to go through a couple more prompts that you might want to use to journal around. Like I said, we're going to... Oh
my goodness, there's more, Tay. There's more.
Hold on to your hat, Tracy. What has your fear held you back from? So when you have something in mind, you want to do something, you want to start your own business, you want to go traveling somewhere on your own, you want to go back to university, whatever it might be, you want to go for that promotion. Sometimes you talk yourself out of it, saying, oh, that job's not really that good anyways, or the pay isn't really worth it for the amount of extra responsibility, or, oh, it's too expensive to do that. Or, we come up with loads of reasons, but is one of the reasons that we stop ourselves doing things, is it fear?
That's interesting.
Right?
I always see two types of people. I always see people who overthink stuff and are fearful, and kind of go into these things thinking of consequence a little bit too much and what could go wrong. That kind of negative glass is half empty.
What relationships or friendships do you hold on to that are unhealthy?
Twin flame ones.
Yeah. But some of us have friends from school that we just kind of, the relationship just carried on, the friendship just carried on, but is it actually good for us? Maybe you have a friend that every time you see them, you think, well, she didn't ask me one question about myself and I feel shit after seeing them. And she made me pay for dinner.
Yeah.
All right, more prompts.
Yeah.
In what way are you hypocritical?
Oh,
good one, isn't it?
Anything pop up there, Dee?
I think where this comes up a lot in shadow work is the way that you want to be perceived versus the way you are. I would like to be perceived as a loving, kind person. And so maybe I do have a tendency of hiding that anger I have for people when they hurt me and stuff, so forth. So that would probably be how I would answer that question in therapy. What about you, Tracy?
I think you are a loving, kind person. And there's been situations where it's just been me and you, no one to judge, and someone's done something really horrible to you. They behave really badly, and I want to gun for them, and I don't even know them. That for
each other, don't we?
And you're dealing with it in such a thoughtful, self-aware, sincere way, which I don't think you probably see in yourself, but you do, where you feel hurt and you feel upset. And I'm thinking, where's her anger? This person's been really out of order.
Well, I probably repressed my anger because I don't want to look at it. But it's important to know that I can be a kind, loyal, caring person.
And patient.
And still feel the anger. That doesn't make me not kind or not nurturing, So that's the other part of shadow work, is to understand that you can be all these things. I'm going to give you one last prompt.
My brain feels a bit mushed today.
I know,
part
right?
of the process.
I'm going to give you one last prompt, and then I'm going to go on to something really fun, which is Jung's Archetypes, okay?
Okay.
But this is a good one. And you don't have to answer it on air. And to be honest, I don't know the answer. If you could get rid of one memory, what would it be?
That's a really good question.
A good one.
Wow.
That one, I feel like I would need to sit on it for quite a while, because I do like to think, oh, but I learned from everything. But if I'm honest, if I could go back, I always thought it'd be quite nice if you could go back and edit your life and just erase the bits that made you cringe or hurt or upset or angry.
Yeah.
We are going to talk about Jung's archetypes. So going back to Carl Jung, who I talked a bit about at the beginning of the episode, he worked out that there are 12 patterns or personality types that are common to all humans. So,
only 12?
Yeah. Now, you might have a little bit of different ones in you, kind of like how you have your sun sign, but then you've also got, your moon sign and your rising sign and so forth. So you've got your main one, and then other things that kind of influence and affect different things about you. It's kind of the same with the personality types. You would have your main personality type, and then you might have a couple that feature, shall we say.
So you can kind of not pick a mix, because I'm guessing you don't get to choose which one you want to be.
It would be nice if you did, but you don't. And the reason why this plays into our shadow work episode is because each archetype has the light and the shadow characteristics. For example, you're a Taurus. Taurus are known to be a bit stubborn. But being stubborn is not a bad thing all the time. It's your stubborn persistence that means that you get ahead in your business. You're amazing at that. It's just making sure that that stubbornness doesn't affect you and others negatively, right? That's what I mean by characteristics that you want to keep in the light side rather than let it slip into the shadow side. There's loads of quizzes online that you can take to see what archetype you are. What I've tried to do with these as well, right? So I was thinking, still in the numerology frame of mind from episode 1, 12 archetypes. Well, there's 12 zodiac signs. Are they linked somehow? Is there a zodiac sign for each archetype? The answer is, I don't think so. But what I've tried to do, I don't think that each archetype links directly to a zodiac sign. But what I've tried to do is attach zodiac signs to each one so you can kind of understand the energy a bit more, because we're much more familiar with the different zodiac signs and what these characteristics are. So I'm going to start with ruler. So number 1, ruler, and I've put here, think Leo. So very much Leo energy. The ruler is the alpha in control of their world. They're not on a humanitarian mission. They're out to provide for themselves and their loved ones that they are responsible for. They see themselves as the protector, the provider. Therefore, they're not universally liked.
Oh, no.
Because their concern is not being liked. It's about providing for the people that matter to them and that they feel responsible.
They're almost like the leader or the teacher. It's not a popularity contest. It's about doing what you got to do.
Exactly. And they have a fear of losing power or control. So you can see how I've linked this with Leo energy, right? The shadow side of the ruler is that they can be quite dangerous. If they slip into the shadow side, they might become a dictator and abuse others for their own agenda. So their main concern is providing for and protecting their loved ones. When it turns negative, they might abuse others to serve that purpose. So the next one, creator. So the creator, think Cancer or Pisces energy. So the creator is also known as the artist. There are slightly varying names depending on which chart you use and which quiz you take. But the creator / the artist, they like pushing the boundaries of reality using their imagination. And for them, authenticity is supremely important. Like sort of Pisces energy, the shadow side is that they can be a bit scatty and start things but don't finish them. They also have very high expectations of themselves, but therefore can also be quite judgy of others.
Really?
And they can lack a bit of sensitivity at times because they're so in the creative process. The third archetype is the sage. So I've put for sage, maybe Virgo, maybe Gemini, maybe Libra, because they are the experts, they are the scholars, they love detective work, they're logical, they're teachers. They're looking at life in an analytical perspective to gain knowledge about reality. They're the truth seekers, but the shadow side is they can be misled and manipulated by others who feed them fake news. And they can become so addicted to learning that they actually become disconnected from reality.
Oh, I see why it could be Virgo, could be, did you say Gemini?
Yeah. And Libra.
Like a mixture of the two, huh?
Okay, so the innocent, this is number 4. And I've put here Gemini, maybe Sagittarius, maybe Cancer. The innocent seeks happiness for all, truth and sincerity and optimism. but their shadow side is that they might live in a bit of a fantasy world. They can be a bit naive. This one is also called the child, so the innocent or the child, and this is the one that I am.
Are you?
I am.
And do you agree with that? Does that match?
I think so. I'm definitely trying to be optimistic and seek happiness. And the shadow side, I would say I'm definitely naive. The next one is the explorer or the adventurer. This one I've put, even though I'm the innocent and the child and I'm an Aries, I've put that this one is very Aries, maybe a bit Sagittarius. They are the seeker. They like escaping confinement of the average. So they want things to not be boring. They think and act differently, and they love to travel. And being bored is their worst nightmare. These are the people that get major FOMO.
Oh, they're definitely, that's Sagittarius.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think it's Aries, because if I want to do something, I do it.
Yeah.
And if I don't do it, then I don't care. The shadow side of the explorer is that they can be fickle, they can have unrealistic goals, and they can be adrenaline junkies, which again, is not negative, but it can be, right? If you're so obsessed with that adrenaline rush. The next one is the rebel. And I've put that this is Aquarius for deaf. Seeks revolutionary change to bring down oppressors. They're independent, they're radical, they're disruptive because they're rebels.
Wow. Could also be maybe Capricorn as well, like legacy, sort of driven.
And by disruptive, I mean they're disrupting the status quo because they're rebelling against something they don't see as right. So the shadow side of this is that they can be dangerous and too impulsive and judgmental, too idealistically. And if someone doesn't meet up to those ideals, you can become judgmental and criminal. Maybe they take their rebellion too far and they move over into the criminal world. The next one is the hero. And I've put here maybe Aries or Taurus or Leo. They want to prove their worth and overcome obstacles so that peace is restored. They're courageous, focused, and determined. The shadow side is that they can reject help. They can be arrogant. They can be goal addicted, disregarding morality. The wizard is the next one.
The wizard. Yeah. This one sounds good.
So which zodiac sign do you think I matched it to?
Well, Pisces is the most spiritual. So is it Pisces?
Exactly. They have a deep desire for transformative power. They have quite often extrasensory powers, but they can be disconnected from everyday life of normal people because they see things in such a spiritual and magical way. So the shadow side is that they can be manipulative. They can be cowardly. They can be self-isolating, and they can be addicted to power.
Wow. I'm thinking a bit of Cancer in there as well.
Now, the next one, there was no question in my mind that this was 100% Gemini because it's the jester. And it's also, by coincidence, or probably not a coincidence, it's also what Paul, my Gemini boyfriend, is as well.
Really? So he's done well on his chart, hasn't he, to match his star sign with his type?
I don't know whether that's influenced my decision on matching these, archetypes to the zodiac signs, but I think I've got it here. I think I've got it right. Because the jester uses humor to heal and to reveal and to hide even the deepest human traumas. Humor is the key there. They use it for basically everything. They're not concerned with quests. They just like making everything easier. They also highlight paradoxes and absurdities of life. And they use humor again to highlight hypocrisy and banish anxiety and depression. The shadow side is their humor can belittle others. They might have a problem being serious, and they might get too involved in seeking pleasure, and that might lead to addiction.
Wow. I mean, I don't want to be judgy of your fiance, Dee, but he's hilarious. He is very funny. He uses humor. That's the side I see, but I'm sure there's other sides as well, the way he uses it to mask nervousness or sadness.
100%, exactly.
I'm also thinking now, you're going to hate me for comparing Paul to this, but Chandler Bing, our friends.
No, I think he's definitely, yeah. I wonder what star sign Chandler Bing is. Hey, Google, what star sign is Chandler Bing?
Gemini.
Love that. I actually do have a thing which we will share, which has all the star signs of the Friends cast.
Next one, everyman, also known as the local. And I've put that this one is very Taurus. They value security and strong relationships and community. They like acceptance in a group. They have loads of empathy to others. They're down to earth. They're against depression.
Against depression? Do you get to choose?
Oppression, not depression.
Oh, oppression. I thought you said depression.
I'm sure they're also against depression. The shadow side, though, is that they might strive for conformity. They might lose a bit of their individual identity. They can be prone to self-pity, and they can be scared of new experiences, and sometimes might be accepting of abuse if it means not being alone. So that I put Taurus.
That is definitely Taurus, but Taurus?
Taurus?
That's definitely Taurus. But that's not my archetype, is it?
No.
Yeah, I'm a Taurus, but that's not my archetype. I don't match.
I did actually Google star signs versus the archetypes, and everyone had different interpretations of which star sign matched each archetype. So
wow,
that made me feel a bit better about mine. Some of them had question marks, some of them had a few. But like I said, just purely to help us understand a little bit these characteristics, these personalities. The next one is the lover. So that sounds like the nicest one, but actually apparently is the most dangerous one. I've put that this one is definitely a fire sign, maybe Sagittarius, maybe Aries. They really value meaningful relationships, not a surprise, dedication, appreciation, gratitude, optimism. They try to see the best in people because they are the lover. So that all makes sense. But the shadow side, they can slip into being a chameleon to please others, being bitter towards former friends and exes, being in love with love, and sex addiction.
So I'm thinking Libra.
Libra, maybe, yeah. These shadow sides are when you let these really good characteristics slip into the sort of darker elements.
Like they become overactive. You know, we talked about overactive chakras, didn't we, in one of our episodes?
Exactly.
They're almost like overactive.
So it's just super useful to be aware that you have those tendencies and work around them. So the last one is the caregiver, also known as the mother. Now, Tracy, this one, when I did my course, I did the test in my mind. I made notes of who I thought some of my closest friends and family were, and it really confused me. But I think this explains the concept very clearly, because when the lady who was giving the course talked about the caregiver / mother, I put down both you, who I'm obviously super fond of and I think is an amazing person, loving, et cetera, but I also put down a family member who I fucking hate. See, I was like, how has she given me this description? And I've come up as a result with two completely different people. And it's because these characteristics, which I'll read out, you live mainly in the lighter side of it. And this person that I hate, she is all about the shadow side.
It's interesting, isn't
not
it?
self-aware, she doesn't even realize that she's a horrible person. So when I read the qualities, maybe that'll be a bit more clear, because at first I was like, I don't understand how I could put the nicest person I know with the evilest person I know in the same personality archetype. I've attached the zodiac sign Scorpio with this one because they have very unconditional love. They're nurturing, they're forgiving, they're re-energizing to those wanting to give up, which I think I definitely associate with you, because you help so many like small business owners and so forth. And I always find it really reinvigorating talking to you when I'm feeling a bit down about something. So that is 100% you. But then when you let it slip into the shadow side, you can become a martyr. You can resort to guilt tripping. You can become enablers, and you can struggle with healthy boundaries. But this is why the person that I hate, she could be all of those positive things, but instead, because her lack of self-awareness and because of the route she's taken, the path she's taken, she has slipped completely down into the darkest of the dark shadow side and is a guilt-tripping, horrible martyr.
When Dee said that to me and I did the test and it came up 100%.
Also, very importantly, which one is last? Because what I found super interesting, guess which one was my last?
Can I say which one?
The jester.
Really?
And it's interesting because that's what Paul is. And I think that that's part of my attraction to him, is that he brings out a side of me that I don't have very much. You know, he's very spontaneous and jokey and stuff, but in a light way. I think I'm quite jokey, but in a sarcastic way.
You bring out the best and worst in each other and teach each other there's a different side.
So it's actually quite good to have someone on the opposite side of the spectrum from you. So archetypes are typically depicted in a wheel. It can work out quite well to be in a relationship with someone, romantic or close relationships with people on the opposite side of the wheel. So for me, the child innocent and the jester were quite opposite. Where you might actually have problems is dating someone or being in a close, intense relationship with someone who's the same archetype, or the ones nearby, which are similar. So I found that quite interesting.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because we talked in our Soul Interactions episode and relationships and star signs about how twin flames can be so opposite. Soulmates are very similar.
I know that was quite an intense episode with the shadow work. Shadow work is intense. If it's not intense, you're probably not doing it right. So hopefully we've helped you along the way if you're interested in it or you're thinking about it. If you're worried about doing it on your own, then don't do it on your own. Do it with a professional. Do it with someone who has done shadow work themselves. It's never good, apparently, to be guided on your shadow work journey by someone else also doing shadow work, because it's two people in very emotional places. That's not to say you can't get support from friends who are also doing it, but if you need a guide or mentor, then seek someone who has experience in it, who's not doing it themselves currently, or go to therapy. And one thing I will say, if you do look to going to therapy, I found it one of the most useful things I've ever done. But some people have talked to me about it, because I'm very open about it, and said it just wasn't for them. So what I want to say is that if you do try therapy and you don't connect with your therapist, then try another therapist before you give up completely.
I think a fun thing to start with is to find your archetype. It's a really good activity to do.
We would love to hear what archetypes you are, all of you listeners are. And we would also love to know your experiences with shadow work. As difficult as shadow work might be, it's the end game. It's not just sort of pain for the sake of it. The end game is so that you reduce the chances of feeling those painful emotions again in the future, or at the very least, when they happen, they don't fuck up your whole life.
It's been a lovely journey today, Dee. Thank you. It's such a journey of self-discovery.
Just don't even start on a shadow work journey unless you have perfected the art of self-care. So how we're going to end this on a happy note is we're each going to name 3 things that we do for self-care.
Oh, you want to go first, Dee?
Okay. I read almost every night. I read at least 2-3 novels a week, I would say. So that is a major way of...
You like reading fiction?
You know me, I love my murder. So it's normally fiction. Moon baths, any kind of bath. Again, I had to perfect this. I always thought for ages, I'm not a bath person because I thought of baths as like you clean in the bath and I have long hair and
it's a chore, isn't it?
Faff and stuff. I was like, why wouldn't you just get in the shower for 3 minutes? So now my baths are purely for like luxury. I normally take a shower before I get in the bath. So I do my washing in the shower. And then the bath is for listening to my favorite music or a podcast and using those fancy bath bombs and lighting some candles. Like it's a spa experience rather than a cleansing one. So reading, bath, and watching TV curled up on the sofa with my dog.
Oh, they're really nice ones, Dee.
Yeah. Sorry, 4th one is hanging out with my friends.
Oh.
So what about you? What are your self-care techniques?
They change quite a bit depending on where I'm at. But I like to either paint my nails or do my makeup or do something that physically makes me feel nicer. Even just getting dressed up, doing something like trying a different eyeliner. Got nowhere to go, but just by doing that practice every day when I'm feeling a little bit down or unmotivated, it's surprising how just getting out of your gym jams, and don't get me wrong, there's opposite days of self-care where it is just being in your pajamas and not seeing anyone, but sometimes when you're a bit laggy and just a little bit not depressed but down and finding it hard to just do anything, surprising what just a little bit of makeup and nail polish and just doing your hair nice can do. My second one is something that I did a lot and thought it was just part of my routine, was walking to work. I used to walk 40 minutes to work every day and back. But now I don't have to go to work at the moment. I still miss that walk. So yesterday I had the opportunity for a lift. I didn't even have to go to work, but I went because I just needed that walk. And I plug in my headphones and I listen to really lovely music, which kind of matches my mood. So it can be like a hard rock day if I'm in a bad mood, or a really nice Enya day if I'm feeling all floaty. But it's important to find the right tune, Dee.
Yeah.
And I marched to my shop and used that time to reflect, release, think about. People pop into my head. It's actually probably one of the times where I'm at my best subconsciously as well. And then I got a new one, Dee, which is work in progress. I eat a lot of rubbish food at the minute. Comfort eating, cheese has been mentioned many a time. And I don't feel like I want to give up my comfort food, but I do think that it fills a void of maybe eating healthy stuff. So I've started juicing. Yesterday I had beetroot and carrot juice.
My parents gave me some birthday money and I bought a smoothie maker.
Yes.
Are you juicing or smoothieing?
I'm going to invest in a juicer very soon. I just want to see if I am actually going to do it, because like the bread making.
Yeah. Can I just tell you, with the juicer, because I had a juicer and it is really good, make sure you get one with an extra wide chute. Because the first one I got was a fucking pain, because I had to cut everything so small to put it in the chute, you know, and then you put...
Oh, I see.
Whereas then it's the Philips ones that are really good, and you should check out Juice Master. It means that you can just chuck in a whole apple.
But yes, self-care is trying my best to eat healthy. I feel so much better and proud of myself, and I do feel healthier. And if that means that I can have all of my nutrients in one shot and know that I've done it for the day, and don't have to prolong my suffering of maybe eating healthily throughout the whole day, I'm sure nutritionists would really disagree with this. If that means that I can have my lump of cheese before I go to bed at night and yet still maintain a somewhat healthy diet, then I'm happy.
Well, on that note, hopefully you'll join us next time.
Take care, everyone. Bye.
If you enjoyed that and you want more from us, why don't you head over to our Patreon page, patreon.com/We Knew the Moon, and check out some bonus content.
Also, if you want to stay up to date, you can follow us on our Facebook page at we.knew.the.moon. If you could leave us a review on our Facebook page, that would mean a lot.
Our Instagram handle is the same as our Facebook, at we.knew.the.moon. We are on Twitter at We Knew the Moon 1, and we are also on Pinterest. Just search for We Knew the Moon.
Finally, if you want lots more fun, moon info, and all things spiritual, plus our lovely shop, please visit our website, wenewthemoon.co.uk.